Hello, and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria. I am here with Gina. We're going to be talking all about how to use travel as a tool to rediscover yourself. I am so excited for this topic. Get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and the challenges faced by women worldwide in the essence of rediscovering themselves. Gina's here to offer some insights, some inspiration to not only fuel your personal growth, but also your professional growth. Let's jump in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Yes, if you're listening live, I see you jumping on. Thank you so much for being here. If you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can show you some love in the comments. We're here every day. We delve deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. Gina is a ICF certified travel coach, travel experience host, and the founder of Wanderlust Solo Women Tours and Wanderlust Travel Coaching. Gina empowers other women to become more confident through travel, crafting unforgettable, purposeful journeys of self-discovery, connection, and growth through authentic travel experiences and personalized travel coaching. Empowering and supporting women to embark on their own purposeful adventures, building confidence and friendships through travel. Welcome.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So excited about this topic. I'm just going to be completely transparent right here off the get-go. I've never been outside the US.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm 42 years old. I do have a passport. So obviously I was thinking about it at some point in my life, but I've never done it. So I'm really excited to kind of jump into this and kind of hear your thoughts and your viewpoint on the importance of traveling in order to rediscover yourself. So first of all, how did this all start?
Yeah, so mine is probably a story that resonates with many women. I don't have children, but I was very career based. So I was building a business. My partner at the time, we bought a bare block of land. We were building a house, and he decided to go and have an affair in the middle of all this. I'd had property before that, so I was the one with more equity that was brought into the relationship. It was a huge mess. I ended up buying him out because I had more to lose. Went on, built the house, finished the house, yay. Mm-hmm. And we live in a very small town, so we ended up getting back together. Bad idea. Did that for a year. Ended up living together after we broke up the second time for 8 months. So I don't recommend that. But in between that, I actually I went into the travel agent, and I just needed some space to clear my head and decide whether I was going to commit to this relationship 100% or bail. So I went in, and I was just going, I'm here in New Zealand, so I was just thinking one of the Pacific Islands or something, and there was a travel brochure for Egypt, and I've always wanted to go to Egypt as a child, and looked at this brochure. There was one spot left on this tour. I actually booked it there and then. Didn't even discuss it with my partner. Went home and said, look, I am going on a break, but I'm going to Egypt, not Rarotonga. Wow. Went on the trip. It was incredible. I come from a town of 7,000 people, arrived into Cairo. I think there's 22 million or something. I get the nervous giggles too when I'm scared or anxious. So I hopped in one of those crazy taxis, and it was just so overwhelming. But the bunch of people I traveled with were incredible. I had the best time, really thrown out of my comfort zone. But I thought, right, I've had this time. I'm going to go back and commit to this relationship. Went back, and he decided to break up again. So that's a sort of then started my journey of, really looking into my life. I had a house, I had the business, but was I happy? And I was just treading on the same ground, and I knew there had to be a major I had to do something big to change things. So that's when I decided, to go to Europe and go backpacking. So it wasn't it took a good year of planning. So it wasn't something I just did. I sold my house, I downsized, I made active decisions to make this possible. I didn't have a lot of money. I literally left with £500, €500 cash, and my credit card. So I think it's just having that determination once you make a decision to follow through.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the hardest thing in letting go. But that journey that I ended up having, I spent the next 8 months, I did things like woofing. I don't know if anyone knows what that is. It's willing workers on organic farms.
Yeah.
So you're exchange work for room and board sort of thing. I was a live-in carer. I worked in the state. I did some amazing stuff. And I left with no confidence, very low self-esteem, put myself into crazy situations, and it rebuilt and I met amazing people. That was the best thing. I met people that were outside of my social circle, and I think that really broadens your horizons. So that's where that building friendships and confidence comes from in my tagline, because that's what it did for me. My little brother and sister decided to get married, so I had to come home, and I ended up staying home. But then that was the seed for starting my business and wanting to share those experiences I had, and showing women when they're older, especially, it can be a tool that can be used for wellness and self-growth, and you don't have to be young.
Wow. I'd love to speak a little bit about fear, because this is the main thing I think that holds most people back from traveling outside of whatever country they're in, into another country. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how, I guess, was there any nerves when you first went to Egypt? And then is there nerves every time? And then is it important? Like, what is the importance of continuing to step into fear?
Yeah, I think I hate to use this word, pre and post pandemic, but there definitely has been a shift pre and post pandemic with travel. So when I went, it was pre, and also the internet, it was there, but I didn't use it the same to search stuff. I did basic research, but I think there's so much knowledge at our fingertips, we can get very overwhelmed. So talking about that fear, I think there's a very fine line also between anxiety and excitement. So they can sort of get mixed up. And we want to be prepared, especially if you are a slightly anxious person. So you do your research, which is really good, but then we can start over researching. And sometimes algorithms and stuff like that can start showing us stuff that's more worrisome. So then our fears build. But I think you've just got to go, okay, what is the worst case scenario? What's, other than health issues, but, what is the worst case scenario? And think of tools you can use to work through that and work backwards and go, what is the best thing? Start actually thinking about the good things that are going to happen, because I think we're always so focused on the negative stuff and the stuff that can go wrong. And yes, stuff is going to go wrong when you travel. You might miss a train. You might, things happen that are outside of your control. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is I very like to be in control of stuff. Traveling, I've realized I have to let go. And that's part of stepping into that fear. And, especially I think as women, we are so in charge of so many things in our lives and for others, that stepping into an area where you're not in control of everything can be really fearful in itself. Yeah. So you've literally, as you said, got to step into it and own it and just, embrace the fear as well, because the worst thing is you can hop on a plane or a train or a bus, it depends how far you've gone, and go home. Yeah. You've got technology now to keep in contact with family and friends. You don't have to be isolated. So as long as you put tools in place to know that you're going to be okay, it sort of helps reduce that fear.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think because, I know one of the things you talk about is, women turning 50. and their kids are maybe moving out, things are changing, shifting, and maybe their identity is kind of even becoming a little more invisible than when they were a little bit younger. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the perks of traveling in your 50s.
Yeah, so there's been a really good study by Journey Woman. They're actually a Canadian-based travel directory for women. So they show all different tours and trips that women, and they have a great blog. But they just did a really good study for Intrepid, and it showed the power. They called it the ageless adventurous, which I think is amazing, and it's invisible no more, because that 50 plus age bracket in women is seen as invisible. We're not seen in marketing and stuff like that, especially in the travel arena, except when you get to that real older age bracket. And that we actually have, we're a real powerful force in that age bracket for solo travel. We make up a huge amount of the decision making for family travel as well. So for myself, I think I have the wisdom of age to appreciate things more. Yet I'm still young enough to have fun and play. So I think that's really important to remember, to enjoy yourself and have joy and play when you travel and do funny things. Like, I'm not serious in photos anymore. I used to be so self-conscious. Now, and when I tell others that come on my trips, just be silly. You're not trying to be an Instagram model. So enjoy that play. And you'll find people don't care how old you are when you travel. They're not asking, they don't care. As long as you're on the same wavelength, you're wanting the similar experiences, age is irrelevant. And I think that's one really important thing I've learned. I've traveled with very young people, I've traveled with very old people, and as long as you've got that similar mindset and you want to enjoy the same things, and I don't think age should hold you back. I think you have the wisdom to know yourself a little bit better, and know what you want and what you don't want. I think that's really important too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the comment about we're not trying to be Instagram models.
I've given up on that.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I work with women business owners, and a lot of it is like putting themselves out on social, like posting pictures, posting video.
Yeah.
And it's like, girl, we're not trying to be models. Like, you don't even have to worry about how you look, you know?
No. Yeah,
So,
and I think that's, with my business, I've had to put, I'm actually a shy person. And even like coming on something like this, you've got to put yourself out there. And a pivotal moment for me regarding that was actually, I went to Brazil. I went to Rio with two girlfriends. It was sort of a whirlwind trip. And this is back when I was just before I turned 40. And we went down to the Copacabana, went down to the beach, and there's every size, color of people down there. There was skinny people and bigger people and middle people and every shade of skin color you could imagine. And they were all embracing it and rocking it. And I was like, what am I worried about? And I think that was a really, point. I thought, I'm never going to look as good as what I look now. I'm never going to be as young as what I am right now. So I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to be me. And, if that means me being silly, and, I'd rather be silly in a photo than, and be laughing than worried about where my hands are sitting and, all that stuff.
yeah, that's great. That's great. I'd love to kind of dive into, I know that you talk a lot about travel being used as a tool to rediscover yourself. And I know that you run, travel retreats of sorts for, is it predominantly for women? So
Yeah,
women.
they're solely for women. Yeah.
And so I'd love for you to kind of dive into, what are maybe the two top things, during these retreats that you do that really hone in on some breakthroughs or some personal development for these women, for them to actually rediscover themselves? Do you have, one or two things that you
Yeah.
can share?
Yeah, I think giving a space for introspect is really important, separating yourself from whether it's stress, trauma, a busy life, and actually removing yourself from that situation, which when you go away happens. It gives a space for reflection. And I think there's sometimes a lot of penny drop moments for women. They realize that they're burnt out or they're overworked or their family situation isn't exactly where they want it to be. So it's a really good time of reflection and introspect. And the other thing it is, I've really noticed, it's a time of release. And even I just did a retreat, just a mini weekend retreat a couple of weeks ago, and I had a woman, and it sounds really strange, but it's on a beautiful remote property and it has a river running through it. She said to me, I just need to go down to the river and scream. She just needed a space to release. And I think that's the other things, providing a safe space for these women to release and also just be themselves is really important. So they're two things I've really, really found, that a space for reflection and a space for release.
Wow. Definitely. How many retreats have you done, by the way?
Yeah, so I've just done my 21st one here in New Zealand. So that was like, nice little 21st birthday there. And I'm on my 7th one in Bali, and I hosted Cuba last year, which was really interesting. And I've also done Rarotonga in the Cook Islands, so just over 30.
Wow. That's great.
And that was during, so I started this side of my business just before the pandemic too. So I had blind stubbornness I could have very easily given up. But I was so determined to make this happen that I still stuck at it. And that's when I did my ICF travel coach training, and I did other tourism training during that period because I had the downtime to do that. So I utilized it in other ways. So yeah, it's been really good. I'm glad I stuck at it.
Yeah, definitely. These women that come and join in general, are they, is this a community? Does everyone kind of keep in touch?
Yeah, so I welcome women from all over the world. So we've had a lot of Americans come, and there's been Australians and New Zealanders. And the great thing is, yeah, they do. So I do what I call pre-travel experience chats. So this is just an opportunity to everyone to connect. So you're not arriving and not knowing anyone. I think that's actually another fear when women travel and decide to go maybe on a retreat. They're nervous about what the other guests are going to be like, and there's very much that fear. Are they going to like me?
Yeah.
And it's that inner child, I think, that comes out. Am I going to fit in, and are people going to like me? So I'm really very conscious of making people feel welcome and included. So that's part of the group chat. And it's really cool. This year, my second retreat in Bali is actually a new one, and we're actually welcoming back guests who have already been and want to holiday again with each other. So I think that's really wonderful.
That's awesome. The difference between solo traveling and traveling in a community. Do you recommend both, one over the other?
So that's a really good point. So when I use the word solo traveling, it doesn't necessarily mean one, that you're single, or one that you're always, or two, sorry, that you're always alone. And I think you don't have to be by yourself the whole time. So you can leave and join a group. You're still by yourself. You're still on your own journey. You just happen to be sharing it with other people. I think that's really important, especially if you're just starting out. I think it's really good to have the support of a community in whichever form, especially if it's in a country you're not familiar with. And then having that time built in that you can actually take yourself off. This is what I do. I quite often go to a country. I have a couple of days by myself, totally. I join a group, get familiar with the country, and then have a few days at the end by myself again. So then I've been familiarized with the country and I'm more confident. So you don't have to be by yourself all the time. And I think that's something that's, we see sometimes in social media. Solo travel doesn't mean you're necessarily even backpacking, living all by yourself and some, struggling in some random country. You can enjoy it with other people as well.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Um, yeah, whenever I think about traveling, I do more so think about traveling with a group of people, just because of the uncertainty around it. I can totally see how something like what you're doing here would be incredibly enticing for individuals who maybe didn't get to travel, maybe who loved all of them, people who love to travel, but then also people who never really got the chance to do it when they were younger. And then feeling kind of the safety around a community of individuals who are doing it together.
Yeah, 100%. There's a thing in New Zealand, we call it our OE. It's our overseas experience. I suppose it's similar to an American gap year. A lot of younger people, they go overseas. I never did that. So yeah, doing it later in life, I did my OE in my 40s, and you can do it in your 40s and 50s. And yeah, if you're nervous, join a group, and again, it doesn't actually have to be overseas like yourself. Not everybody necessarily wants to leave their country, or there might be reasons they can't, or they just want to explore their own country. You could go just to another state and join. A lot of cities have free walking tours. They're a really great thing to join, even if you're on a short weekend break. They're really cool. You get to, one, learn about the city you're in and some secret places, but you also more than likely are going to meet some other solo travelers as well. And then things evolve. Sometimes they go, do you want to go for dinner? And things build from there. So I highly recommend just, doing free walking tours, anything like that, wherever you go, as an orientation, but also a great way to connect and get a little bit more at ease with the place you're in.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we have a ton of people watching live. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. If you are watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love. What would you say are some misconceptions of women traveling on their own? I know that this is with a group, but
I think
from
you
here
still
to
get,
there, it might be on your own.
yeah, I have still been asked, where's your husband? Why are you by yourself? There's always got to be, you've got to give that reason why. Why are you by yourself? But you even get that from friends and family at home. Like, why do you want to go by yourself? Aren't you scared? And it's like, aren't you afraid? And there's so many people that, are questioning your decision to go by yourself. And I think, well, I don't need a partner necessarily as well. I do recommend in some countries you do wear a wedding ring. It just helps avoid unwanted attention if you're walking around by yourself. But yeah, I have got that, like, where is your partner? Why are you traveling by yourself? So, and I did early on get a lot, aren't you afraid to go by yourself? And my thing is, I'm no more afraid to walk around a big city here in New Zealand than I am to walk around a big city anywhere else, to be honest. As long as I think women have great intuition and are good at trusting their gut, or we should get good at trusting our gut. And I think as long as you're sensible, you do sensible things and you trust your gut and your instinct, they're the best tools you can rely on when you're traveling.
Yeah, I love this talk of instinct. I think a lot of times we ignore that, but this is a great conversation around trusting that would be a really good thing to do in these situations.
100%. I think we second guess ourselves. Like, women have a really good natural instinct, and we sometimes suppress that. And I don't think that, and it's not about being consciously afraid all the time or anything. It could be any situation, not necessarily danger. It's just trust your own intuition, and that is the best tool you can have in any situation in life. Just really rely. If you feel uncomfortable somewhere, remove yourself. You don't need to be in that situation, or put yourself in a safer, whatever situation it is, put yourself in a safer position.
Yeah. What would you say has been the number one lesson you've learned from traveling?
It's never too late. I think, like, I'm 53, I'm just about to turn 54. And I think your life's not over once you get to over 50. Like you mentioned earlier, it's a major time in transition for women. We're quite often dealing with, for some, their children have left home. They might be going through divorce and separation, or loss and, grief. Quite often there's career changes happening, but we've also got body changes happening. So everything's chucked at us. So it's a really good time to actually go back and go, what do I actually really love? A lot of women gave up things that gave them joy and passion when they were younger. So it's a really good time to reflect on that and go, well, what actually really interests me now? I've spent my time on my children or my partner or my career. Now what's for me? So I think really looking and finding and starting to, life's short. Like, I was somewhere and we were having a conversation, and they said we've only got like 20 summers left at my age. And that's a real, wow. So make the most of those 20 summers.
Yeah, I was just talking about that on a podcast a couple months ago, and we calculated the days, and it was like, dude, oh my God. It's such a, I don't remember what it was, but it was like so insignificant. It like made my stomach hurt.
Yeah.
But again, importance of, getting out there and not waiting. So much of it is like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll look at it tomorrow. I'll think of it tomorrow, next month, next year, next quarter, whatever it is. And, I always say that, the reason that I've gotten to the life that I have now, still building, still growing, still all the things, right? But it's because I move quickly. I make decisions quickly. I'm very decisive. And I try really hard not to mull over things for an extended amount of time. There's like a decent amount of time to think about something, like you said with the whole Europe thing, took you some time to figure it all out, but you made a decision, you started making the plans, and then you went. And so many times all we're doing is in the thinking stage. We never get to the planning stage. So really commend you for that. This has been wonderful. I so appreciate learning about this. I also just love that there's something like this for women in their 50s, 60s, whatever it is. I mean, this is just so stinking cool. I'm on your website, and just the pictures and the fun, like how wonderful. For those of you that are on audio and can't see us right now, her website is wanderlustSoloWomenTours.com, and is in a clickable link in the description below, wherever you're listening or watching us. Before we kind of wrap up here, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, who exactly is attracted to you? Who exactly are the women that should be reaching out to?
I think so. Even in, all that you talk about niche and everything, and I think that is really important. And what I've realized is, I'm just going to be me. And I think when you're searching, whether it's me or any other tour group, you've got to find the right fit. So for me personally, I'm very authentic. So I like to really get to know each guest as well. So like we've talked about, empty nesters, people coming through divorce and separation, trauma, any of those things, or people just have a super busy career and they need a break. They need someone to, they organize everybody else's shit. So they need someone they just want to arrive and have it all taken care of. So that's what I do, and that's where my travel coaching comes in as well. I can help you prep for that trip in any way with flights and logistics, right down to what you need to pack. So all you've got to do is get yourself there. So I think, someone who just wants a stress-free, fun, authentic, and genuine connection with their travel, because I'm very much into conscious travel and sharing a location in a genuine and authentic way. So if you want to get if you want it, I'll facilitate it. But if you want all the glam Instagram shots and you want to go to all the things you see on social media, that maybe not exactly my fit, because I want to show you the more authentic and genuine side of a location. So if you're into that and you're into, a really genuine, loving, supportive community, that's where I'm at.
That's great. That's great. And then on social, someone wanted to follow you on social media. Where do you kind of hang out the most?
Yeah, so mainly Facebook and Instagram. I am on LinkedIn, and I've just started a new podcast, so that's been a real good learning curve on YouTube, but mainly Instagram and Facebook.
Gorgeous. Well, this has been fabulous. I thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. For those of you that are still hanging on at the end here, thank you so much. Make sure you follow, like, and share. For those of you that really resonated with Gina and the goodness that she's sharing here, the inspiration, the inspiring maybe visions that are coming up for you, make sure that you check out her website. Like I said, wanderlustSoloWomenTours.com. It is in a clickable link in the description. And then she predominantly, like she said, hangs out on Facebook and Instagram. So make sure you follow her up in that area. Her links are also on her website. Let's see. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Just want to thank you for letting me be on your platform and with your audience. I really appreciate it, because I love sharing the message of, solo travel and getting out there and empowering women. So I appreciate for you for, having this community as well. So thank you.
I love that. I'd love to kind of just real quick as we wrap up here. So I'm actually hosting a retreat here in the United States. I'm hosting an all women's business retreat. And I've hosted several retreats around the arena of sobriety in my past.
Yes.
And I'm partnering up with a woman who has also hosted plenty of retreats in the arena of health and wellness. But this is going to be our very first all women's business retreat. We're super excited. We rented out an Airbnb. And we're almost full. We're like getting down to the last beds. And I don't know, I would love for you to kind of just in a couple sentences, like, what is the feedback from these women when they go to these retreats?
Yeah, so most of them are, one, they didn't realize how much they needed it. And they really appreciated the support and the welcoming environment. I think whatever sort of retreat you're hosting, it doesn't matter what sort of, or travel experience, it doesn't matter. Making someone feel welcome and comfortable, I think, is a really good thing, because if people are comfortable, they're going to share more and they're actually going to get more out of the experience, whatever you're sharing. So I think making people feel comfortable, and if they are, that's good feedback.
Absolutely. Love it. Well, super excited for you, super excited for us, and all of the individuals that get to enjoy all of the goodness here that we're sharing in the form of retreats. So this brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you so much, Gina, for being here, sharing your wisdom, inspiring us all To our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us until the end. Remember to follow, like, and share. And once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation Global, where we continue to have conversations just like this one to really get you a different perspective on how to live life. So thank you for being here. That's also in a clickable link in the description below. We'd love for you to join us. As always,